Hey everyone, I'm excited to give you a quick look at our new header builder in Kadence Blocks. This is an advanced header builder that allows you to build any kind of header in any theme. So if you're on a full site editing theme, this is for you because you're normally very limited when it comes to headers. And this, you can do mega menus, you can do sticky headers, you can do transparent headers. It truly gives you all the tools you need for a really advanced header or just a really good looking one. So I'm going to go through all the settings here and let's dive in. Now, where we're going to start is we're going to look at Webflow's header and talk about how you can recreate that in WordPress. This is a good example of a more advanced header that is really not possible using core tools and something that Kadence Blocks can now let you do. So what you see here is a header that's got a click to open mega menu, and inside that mega menu, you've got multiple columns, and inside the columns, you have nav items with icons, descriptions. You even have this like highlight here on something that's new to call it out, as well as like the ability to just add like headings to say like, this is what this nav item's all about, and then a nice graphic. And if you go through, you can see there's just a much more interesting and engaging header. And then crucial, because this is something that core does not really let you do, but you can now do with the header builder, is you can design it for mobile. So what Webflow has here is a design that actually works on mobile, where you've got this interesting layout and the whole way that the header is rearranged gets changed for a mobile setting. So this is what we're going to rebuild. First thing I did is actually go in, and this is just using core WordPress. So this is 2024 and no plugins active, right? If you look at the front end of this site, you can see I just kind of rebuilt the structure, but with none of the cool features. So there is no mega menu here because core doesn't let you do that. And didn't go ahead and make submenus for these other ones because why bother? On top of that, if we look at mobile, this is one of the things that really hurts you when you're dealing with the core editor, and that is no real ability to edit how this looks in mobile, design it separately. You know, you can't put that button inside of a pop-out. Your pop-outs are very basic and just nav. And in this case, where I had 2 menu items, I get 2 different things to open. So clunky, not ideal. We'll go in and look at how this is done. Just real quickly, open up the site editor. You can see here's the header that I built just using core blocks. And if you've worked in this environment, you know it's very limiting. So we're going to hop out and go ahead and activate Kadence Blocks and Kadence Blocks Pro. Mega menus and certain things like that are part of Pro and not just free. And then what you'll see is we have a new navigations menu and a new headers menu. So I'm going to just start in the headers menu, and we're going to do this. We're not going to switch themes. This is going to be 4 full site editing themes, so you can kind of see how it works. So what you get asked first is to name your header. We're going to call this Webflow. And then you're presented with some basic layouts that you can start with. You've got like multi-row layouts. If you're doing a lot of nav items you want to show. In this case, we're just going to choose basic one. Actually, I'm going to go back and choose this one. And then for mobile, I'm going to choose this basic layout. So what you get here is I've got a logo. This is white, so hard to see. We'll fix that right now by changing the background. And you've got a simple nav and button. We're going to turn this into Webflows. But what I want you to pay attention to right away is that within the header builder, we have a whole layout area where you can visually see the blocks, much different than what you get from a view like this, where the list view is just clunky and showing you how you're actually going to lay it out. So I can drag this around. I can put it in a different row, and I can do that with navs. I can also add blocks from here. So I know I'm going to want to add a nav block. So I can write nav, and then in this case, I'm going to use a Kadence Advanced nav block. And I'm going to create a new one, and we're going to call this the main nav. And you'll see inside this nav builder, I've got some basic settings. This is obviously very, very reminiscent of what's in WordPress core. And in terms of the traditional menus area. So you can go into your pages here and build out all the pages that you want by just simply saying, okay, like product, solution, I can add that to menu, and now I've got navs. I can also set up my defaults. So on desktop, I know I want that to be horizontal. On tablet, I can also horizontal or vertical. I'm going to set it to vertical now, but I'm actually going to show you how horizontal on tablet can be interesting as well with a different nav. But vertical, meaning I want it to lay out for my tablet view. So real quickly, I will throw in the rest. We've got resources, and I need pricing. And let me switch back here, enterprise. Okay, we'll start there and just look at this. So you can see there's the new nav in my header. And then I'm going to remake this one and change the button, of course. But I think the first thing we want to do for recreating a Webflow will be to set up this row. And you can see when I'm selecting it, it's highlighted here. With this, I have some layout options, so I can make it full width if I wanted that, or contained or standard. In this case, I want it standard. Contained just means that I want to push the padding inside, whereas standard is going to align it with the left side of your content. And just to say, in a situation, and we're going to just show this off real quick, where you might want to build whatever you want to and not use this header row configuration, which is really powerful because it basically lets you do all the kind of layouts you want. Like you're not dealing with settings and whether or not you're aligning right and all that stuff. You just drop it into the box. But if you wanted a blank slate, you can do that and you can say, I want this. Oh, I selected the wrong one here. Change it back to header row. This one, I could say single container. I want this thing to just stretch the whole way and I want to put a nav in it. And, you know, in this case, I could take this navigation block and I could say like stretch it and it'll fill the whole space. So that's totally an option. This gives you all of the control you could want. I'm going to just set that back to standard and put that back up in this area. You'll obviously get all the styling options here. So in this case, I'm going to go ahead and make that black, and then I will grab the navigation. Oh, grab the outer navigation. So inside of a navigation, you have navigation links, and those links all have styling as well. So in the outer, I'm just going to set that to white. And then I can change my hover color. I'll make that blue, and my active color, I can make that white. And so here you can see that interaction really easily. So we've got a button. In this case, if we're following Webflow, we're going to change this to a get started. And I obviously don't want that to be all caps. So I can do that. And I can set the background color. And on hover, background. There you see, that's coming together. And then whenever you're building a header, we put in a placeholder of navs, but it's not actually a nav until you make a selection. So you can see here, I don't have any navs saved. I haven't actually saved the page yet. But in this case, I'm going to create a new one, and I'm going to just show you how you can use a custom link here. In this case, I've got login, and we are just going to make that blank for now. And I believe it's contact sales. So that's there, and I'll jump in and switch the colors for this. And again, I will make the hover blue and active white. I am going to edit the font size a little bit. So this is something that, you know, if we're making it exactly like Webflow or very similar, the font size is a little bit smaller than, kind of your standard. So we'll do that. And I'm going to save. You're going to see I've got a couple things, my main nav, and then I've got auto draft here. It's because I forgot to name this nav item here. So what I can do is actually go into the navigation settings. You can see it's auto draft. I'm going to open the builder, and again, I can just drop in the name here. So this is like my login menu, and I will finish that and then save. You can see that that's now updated, and I'm now saving those navs. What's great about this is that the navs are dynamic. You can control them and edit them later on. So just for the sake of showing you, we can pop out of here, go into navigations. There's my 2 navigations. I can click in, edit them all I want, and they will dynamically update inside of my header. So don't need to walk through all of that step by step, but that's how this works, which is great. The other key thing, and this is something that Core doesn't have set up in there now, is just that these are all linked. So you can see that you can't edit this URL. It is dynamic. If I go into the solutions page and change this URL, this will update here automatically across my site. Of course, if I want to make this a custom nav, you just hit the edit URL and you can customize away. So this is, again, we're just looking at basic setup right now, but you can see I can open my visual builder. At the top here, I could say I want to go ahead and, here, I need to add some content. So I had a paragraph. Let's see. They say, and just make this advanced text, white, make it small. I'll go back to this header row here, and I'm going to set the style and make the background blue. And then, because I know I'm going to want some padding here, I'm going to just pump up this, maybe this size. Whoops, that's left. There we go. Maybe that'll end up being a little bigger. I'll play around with that. But you can see the general part of this coming together. On this side of the nav, I can do the same thing. And I believe they say explore sessions. And I'm going to actually change this to an advanced text so that I can add that nifty icon. All right. And I will set that icon on the right. And then because I want all of that to be a link, I'll use a link wrap here. And for now, I'm just going to link it to nothing, but now that's a link. And we've got the basic setup going for this. Where this gets really fun and interesting is obviously that I can now control a layout for tablet and mobile. So in this case, I've got a new area here that you can put whatever you want to in. And that's separate from my desktop. So I've got an off-canvas trigger and I've got my site identity again. I'm going to just jump in and switch this background color and probably give it a min height of 60. So there's some space, and I'll go into this and I'm going to set this to black, foreground to white, and then on hover, we're going to do the same. That way, when this opens, it's not showing anything weird because we're going to do an off canvas. Now, this is what appears when I click on this. So I've got a container here that I can put whatever I want to. Right now, I've got this navigation in there and the ability to control these settings. And so in this case, I'm going to say I want it to contain the whole area, and I can set the mix and alignment and background colors. I'm going to leave this white for now because I want to follow what Webflow is doing. And Webflow has a white pop out. And I can show you, I will open up my main nav here and select that. And of course you can't see it because it's white, But what's great about my navigation settings is that each one of these is responsive. So I can switch the color to black when I'm in the tablet mode. In this way, it allows me to really design both a header and tablet navigation. Don't have to manage them separately and keep the links in line. So when I come back to this later, it's really easy, but I obviously can have two completely different styles, or three, obviously when we get to mobile. So this is set up here. This is the basic structure we're going to start with. And now I think it's time to dive into, let's do some mega menus. So I'll just save. We'll jump out into the desktop and I'm going to grab on product. Oh, one thing I can show real quick is that when you're in the nav, I can choose a style with an underline. So that again follows what's happening. And once I'm in one, I've got this option. Here's my add a submenu. This is same as core, although now you get all the ability to style the background of this and the foreground and padding and all that size. I don't want a submenu. I want a mega menu. So I'm going to say, yeah, go ahead and clear it. And then now I've got a mega menu. In this, I just quickly set up a 2-column mega menu with a submenu item here. I'm going to go ahead and delete that whole thing because when you have nothing as a submenu, it's not going to try to pull that into a mega menu, and you click on the mega menu item, you get the option for layout. So here you can choose different layouts. These are some like basic design setup. So if I drop this in, you can see I've got image and different stuff that you can just like immediately go and start playing with. And in this case, because we are not trying to work from a template, we're actually trying to build what exists on Webflow. We know that the product nav here is 4 columns. So we also know it's the width of the content. So if I grab the 4-column layout, we'll just see I've got basically 4 items that got placed in. I'm going to hop out and look at this just to show you the mega menu settings. So once you're in mega menu, there is a mega menu width. Content width is going to be the width of the content that you've set up for the content of your site. I can do full width, so then it's going to expand the whole distance. In this case, I'm telling it to use the inner width, but I could actually make this thing full width if I wanted to. I've got a row in here that's doing that. I can also do a custom width. So if I wanted it to be a certain size, I can control that here. And then I can actually control the alignment. So if in this case, solutions, that one isn't a content width. If we go back and look at Webflow here, solutions, they make it smaller because of the design. You can do that. You can make that custom size smaller, and then you can control the alignment. A lot of cases you're going to want it right. But like, let's say this was 600 and I wanted it to be center. I can now make that a center drop-down nav. And that can be really interesting. But in this case, I'm going to leave it inherit, and I'm going to go back to content width because this is the size that I actually want to be using for this nav. Now we get into fun part here where I've got a bunch of columns and then nav blocks. In each of these nav blocks, when we created it, we got a basic, simple navigation. I can open up in the nav builder. I've got custom links here and a name. So in this case, I might change this to be, product and nav or subnav 1. And I could add in my stuff. So again, if we go back to product, we know we've got design, page building, edit mode, e-commerce, interactions. I can go through and start putting that in. Now, I don't want to bore you to tears by doing all of that. So I'm going to quickly show you just by we're going to edit one subnav item, and then I will stop talking and I will make the screen go fast as I go ahead and build out the rest of this header. But for now, we can look at building the designer. So we will, done editing, designers here. I've got a hold of this Kadence navigation link. So this is my main nav and then Kadence navigation link when I click on this. In this case, I want a description. So here we've got, copy that, paste that into the description. And I know I want to have an icon. I went ahead and threw in some custom icons that looked similar to whatever Webflow is using so that they're available to me. So inside my individual nav link, I have the ability to choose an icon or an image. Once I've got the icon, you can see I've got it in the left position. And in this case, I can go through. Now, you can add custom SVGs with Kadence Blocks Pro now. So like if you just have an SVG you want to drop in, you can do that now. But I can also come in here. This is my like Webflow-esque icons that kind of look similar. And so you can see under the product nav here, they've got this like mouse icon. And I found something similar online. So I can change all of the sizes for this to match up with what Webflow is doing and all of the controls here for that. So I can go through, say I want my description styles. I can change that here and it would affect just this subnav. Or I can go out to the navigation and say, hey, I know that every subnav item in this is going to have the same description styles. So I'm going to go in here and actually change that. And we're probably looking, I don't actually know, but maybe 15 pixels. And we probably want the typography on this nav to be maybe 16. We'll choose bold font here. Maybe. And make sure that the description font, which is inheriting, is normal. So that looks, whoops, didn't mean to do that. That looks close. I've got the blue showing up when I'm hovering over that, and my description saying the same. The icon size could be a little bigger, so we'll go into the actual navigation item for this and change the icon size. Can be that. Let's just guess. So coming together here, and that's starting to look pretty similar. I think the description font could be perhaps a little bit smaller. We also need to add build above this. So I'll select the parent and add before and text and build. And then we know that this will be small and normal, all caps, and a lighter color. Okay, coming along. Oh, we probably want to get rid of the margin on that, or at least define what it is. Now, nav items have padding, so let's go ahead and get rid of that padding, which we have the nav link padding here. I will just stick it all together and set it to 0. And then we know we're going to want spacing between each item. So if I go into the nav link settings, got my padding done, got my vertical item spacing set to 1. So that way there's a gap between each item. And that is starting to come together. You can see it's a little bit bolder on their side, maybe. Maybe it's just the font color. So make sure that that is all set up. All right. Now, I'm set to duplicate away. So I can duplicate this all through, or I can go through one by one and copy the styles and paste them in or whatever. I'm going to go ahead and build out this nav so you can see the final product of how this looks, and then we'll talk about mobile, but I'm not going to bore you to tears by having you walk through as I type in all of this stuff. So here we go. We've got the nav built out. You can see I've added in all the icons and descriptions. I created this little graphic over here. This is just sections and headline with a link, all pretty straightforward. You can see here I've got the solutions nav made, and again, just a little graphic. This one's interesting because we're dealing with a row layout block that's got different column width in the middle for that kind of smaller nav. Place now where we can actually start looking at this on mobile and how is this going to work for the mobile nav. So we will open up our visual and we'll head into tablet mobile. And now here you can see, if you look over at Webflow and jump into their mobile mode, you can see we need to add this contact sales link. So we can do that, just adding a nav, and I've got a mobile contact set up for us, and we'll put it on the left side. So there's the mobile nav. Then when you click the off canvas, that's going to open up this, which we started to set up before. But right now, what would be nice is to have the top area still have the logo, so they feel like they are not completely on a different site. We can do that by adding a section here. And we'll add the site logo. And then in that section, set the background color and add some padding. Okay, and we grab this off canvas and we are going to drop all the padding out. Now you can see that the close button is hidden here. It's because we need to set the color and on hover. So that looks a little bit nicer and goes along with the header. And now we'll get into the nav here. So with this, like that, we'll add some padding around the nav. Maybe just like that much. And then what would be nice, and you can see that this is all that Mega Man used there. It'd be nice if the nav items had a divider. So we will put in a little divider. So there's some clean spacing between each. And then if you click in, you can see like this row layout hasn't had a setup for tablet. So here we're just going to make it row, and similar with our product nav, it is already set to row. But there's a couple things we might want to do. One is we probably want to get rid of some of that padding. So we'll just drop that out and put back some on the top, just so there's a little space between that and the build. And then for the actual nav items here, this is where it gets kind of interesting. So right now it's set to vertical. I'm going to make it horizontal, which is typically a nav that would run next to each other. But of course, these navs are so wide, they would just, you can't fit two on a row naturally because the description is so long. However, in the horizontal layout, I've got this option for grid, and here I can set the columns to 2, and that makes a much cleaner layout in this environment. It looks a lot nicer. You get to see everything, and that description text doesn't take up so much space. So I'm liking that, and I think we'll do the same thing with each one of these. Horizontal and grid, and then here. Okay. And now with this area, you know, if you go and look on Webflow here, you can see product. They're doing the same thing with 2 items, but they've made this significantly smaller. They're basically hiding that one row. We've got multiple ways in which we could hide it. We could do that in the visibility settings. We can also, just so it's visually appealing here, you just set that min height to 0, and that will take away the height that's added for desktop views. So I think the only thing here would be maybe some padding at the bottom to give it some space when you're scrolling through on mobile. So go back in here, you notice we added a little bit to the top, we'll add those to the bottom. And that's that row done. I'll scroll down here and we'll look at solutions. And same thing for here. I'm grabbing the nav, I'm going to make it horizontal, and I'm going to say it's a grid layout with 2 columns. And then I get that. This one's interesting. I don't actually know what they do here. Okay, same thing, 2 columns. Go ahead and do that there then. Grab that nav, horizontal, grid, 2 columns. And we can make this one just a little bit smaller by going into the structure settings and setting that to 0. That shrinks that up a bit. Everything's looking pretty good here. The only thing we need to do is just go into this row and drop the right and left and make this just a little bit smaller. And for resources, we've got this started. And so that looks fine. Okay. So now I'm going to go ahead and look at this nav here. If we go into Webflow, close everything up, we can say they have a login, a contact sales, and then you can't really see it kind of hidden in this view, but at the very bottom there, there's a get started. It's free. So let's add that in. We'll add a block, add a section block, and then a buttons. Okay. We're going to make this full width. Do you want to add a little top and bottom padding, make it a little bigger? I'm going to set the font size, something like they were doing, 15. And again, we'll make that bold. And the last thing will just be setting the color so we can match. Now, I want to grab this section again, and here we're going to add some left and right padding. Oh, I said that backwards, right and left padding. And then I'm going to grab this, duplicate it, and then here do login, and we're going to change the style a little bit. We'll make the background white. We'll give it a border and color. Just a little bit. Go there. Hover. We'll keep the background white. Let's make this color bolder. Okay. I'm going to make this one just visually a little bit smaller. And then duplicate that. Contact sales. I'm going to grab this whole, the 2 buttons we just made, and add a little bit of margin to the bottom there. And now, ideally, I'd like this to float to the bottom. So I'm grabbing this section here. I'm going to give it some flex grow and align bottom. And I probably want some padding on the bottom of that. There we go. And that's our nav built out for tablet. Now we'll run through everything on mobile here. Again, we don't want this 2-column grid, so kind of got options. We can leave it on inherit and change the grid columns to 1, or we can just set it to vertical, and then it's going to drop vertically, which is great. Real easy. So vertical. Solutions here. Vertical. And I'll find this earlier. Okay. And then from there, we need to grab the off canvas padding to none. Hit save. Okay. And there you have it. We've just built out this pretty intense navigation. Now, there's one thing I didn't do here. Let me go ahead and do that. So you'll notice the bottom bar on this one doesn't have any space. That is controlled. Oops, sorry. That's controlled here in the sub menu. I can add a little top margin, so that just drops down. The other thing I want to do is add some border radius around. You can see that there around the drop down, and I'm going to do the same here. So that's border radius 8. Oh, whoops, wrong style. Sub menu styles, border radius 8, and a top margin. So there's a little gap. Okay. That's it all coming together. We're going to save. We built all of this in the Kadence header area. You don't have to do that. You can build this in a page. It is, in the end, a block that you can build anywhere, but this is a nice way to do it because it keeps everything kind of confined. You can see that we built navigations out here. Those I can go back to from this place and edit them, or I can edit them directly in the header or wherever I put them. So we're still using the 2024 theme, and this still has, if we look at the front end, the original header created as an example with core blocks. You can see it doesn't have the mega menu and all of that. Now, if we go in and edit, we're going to replace that header with the one we just built. We can do that by coming in and edit the header template. And here, because I don't need this anymore, I'm going to go ahead and delete the 2 group blocks that were in here. Whoops, didn't select the outer group. Let's delete that. And now I'm just going to simply grab the header. And here you can see a preview of any headers you've already built. There's the header we want. Drop that in. And now we can see the whole thing set up here. So that's just save. And we can drop right on out and view the site. And here you can see our header all the way through. And then on mobile, we have this nice design with our buttons. We can also go ahead and view this on tablet. And again, all works out. So that is how we built Webflow's header inside WordPress using a full site editing theme. Now, if you're using the Kadence theme, you can go into the customizer, and there's a new setting in here. So if you go into the header, you can click enable block header, and there you can select the header you want to show, and then it will drop right in. So that allows you to use the new Kadence header very easily into the Kadence theme. If you've got Kadence Pro, the Pro add-on to the Kadence theme, that allows you to use elements, and then you can do conditionals with headers and things like that as well. But this is a quick way to drop the new Kadence header into the theme. I hope you enjoyed this tutorial on building the Webflow header inside of the new Kadence header builder and advanced nav. I think this is going to be really helpful for people using full site editing, as well as people wanting to do a little bit more with their navigation. So I'd love to see how you begin to use it, and expect a lot more to come for this Thanks so much for watching.